This is a weather alert from KELOLAND TV.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens. We're doing a little extension of the morning show just to give you kind of some information that you need to know today to deal with the weather that we have at hand. We'll begin with the recap of where we're at this morning. We have a blizzard warning and no travel in western South Dakota. That does include points between Rapid City and Pierre. We also have an extension of the blizzard warning into Aberdeen, Watertown. So that's a reduction of visibility and obviously a lot of no travel advisories in effect there. We've also had significant icing in some of the areas near and southwest of Huron to Chamberlain. That's a winter storm warning. Also snow now in Mitchell. Sioux Falls has been rain, but now will be going to wind-blown snow. And very important that you monitor that today because even an inch or two of snow moving sideways is going to restrict visibility and cause lots of problems. All right, let's go to the flood warnings. Again, as we've been recapping throughout the morning, significant flooding is occurring. We have several blocked highways and roads and township roads and you name it. It's out there this morning. The South Dakota DOT has had this particular graphic up here, and what we wanted to at least illustrate here on that as we kind of pan out the view here a little bit is that there are many spots with W's. That's where things are flagged, where roads are basically closed or impassable, and that is a story in Sioux Falls and much of the southeast. In fact, Max Hofer is with us right now, continuing our live coverage, 57th Street. Max, tell us what you're seeing out there this morning in Sioux Falls.
Well, Brian, currently what I'm seeing is the tunnel is incredibly flooded right now. It's like about a foot and a half of water. There's been a car submerged here for about, I want to say about 10 minutes now, and the tow truck has had no success getting it out, so it's pretty bad. If you find yourself coming across a giant puddle like that, go around, do not go through. And especially if this is your average, if this is your morning commute, definitely don't go out down it. I advise you finding a different way to work this morning. The police actually have roadblocks up right now about a few yards back, so people have been coming this way and turning around. But yeah, it's pretty nasty out here today. So if you're driving, be advised for huge puddles. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Max. One thing, too, is we go to our 41st Street Skycam. That area that has been flooding all morning, it just is basically sitting there. There's not a lot of movement on that. And one factor that I thought was interesting, kind of looking at all of this here on the west side of Sioux Falls, we wanted to bring up the Big Sioux River and where we're at right now. The river gauge on Western Avenue, can you see the movement on that graph? It is still going up. And now, again, the thing right now to watch, of course, is whether or not we've got some contamination with ice and that type of thing on the gauge. But it appears that the river level there is now over 16 feet. That is a very significant rise. Obviously, when we're dealing with something like that, it's hard for the runoff on the streets on the west, those areas adjacent to the Big Sioux, to get into the proper channels and get out. The river level is up a lot, so we're just going to continue to monitor that. I did want to kind of toss that element in here because that's not going down yet, and that's just clogging things up, and we know how a lot of runoff issues have been very common here. Touring radar right now, again, where we left off on the show here, we've got blizzard conditions from Watertown to Huron. That's looking pretty common there. That Huron Skycam has been just full of snow. And then in the southeast, it's rain and snow. This is a look live here at what's going on right now. And we were kind of concerned about this next band of rain coming in. That we're not done with this yet. So Sioux Falls, we've had 2.5 inches of rain. And then this batch will probably add a little more to it coming in from northwest Iowa. So as we monitor that, of course, that just contributes to all of the runoff issues that are at hand. I know Scott Munt, too, has been out and about with this flooding this morning. And, Scott, I think you're ready to go. What can you tell us this morning at your location?
All right, thank you, Brian. The one thing I've noticed standing out here for about 20-30 minutes is that the winds have picked up, and we still have the mist coming down, able to blow that around. You've noticed that as you look around, just adding to our rainfall totals that you mentioned a little bit ago. I'll step out of the way. The reason why I'm out here is because the street is flooded. This is between 41st and Louise and Shirley Avenue. It's flooded. The police have barricades that are up on both sides. They also have barricades up south of this area, maybe up a half block to a block that direction. We've watched a couple of cars try to go through here. The water laps up to about their fender. We've also seen a couple of, well, I saw one pickup truck just ran right through the barricades. Not a good idea to do that. But the thing about the flooding we have going on this morning is, for the most part, you can't see it. If you're not sure where you're going, if you have a detour like this going on, you may run across some other floodwaters that you need to pay close attention to. So it is a slow go this morning, if it's a go at all. We do have no travel advised. Roads are closed into western, central, and northern South Dakota because of the ongoing blizzard, and that is something that you talked about earlier, Brian. We are waiting for this rain to switch over to snow, just getting a gust of wind right now. This will happen as we go through the late morning hours and into the afternoon. As that happens, you'll notice that your visibility will be knocked down dramatically, probably have like a mini blizzard go through the eastern and southeastern South Dakota once we get that switch over to snow. With that in mind, and the floodwaters that we have, that is something else that we'll have to pay attention to, because you might be able to make it to your destination depending on what happens with the floodwaters. Some of those streets that you use may be blocked. It's something that you will have to keep in the back of your mind. So we'll continue to monitor the situation here on the western side of Sioux Falls. Once again, we're at Louise and 41st Street, between Louise and 41st and Shirley Avenue. That's an area that is barricaded by the police, and we also have a sky cam on there too, Brian, that I know we paid attention to that as we went through the morning hours, and we saw a couple of cars go through the floodwaters. Reporting live in Sioux Falls, I'm meteorologist Scott Muntz.